Because of how oversaturated YouTube is nowadays, to stand out, it's no longer enough to just be entertaining. Oh, so that's me out already. You also have to be original as well, meaning that when determining how well videos and creators set themselves apart, originality is as big a part as the quality. Isn't that right, side character in which to bounce more unfunny jokes off of?
Why are you wearing a hat indoors, you complete loser?
And for me at least, this applies to everything, especially the games I play. I will always take a mediocre game with an original concept over a good game with a boring, bland, done-to-death, unoriginal one any day, any time. Apart from maybe this. And that. This. Keep in mind that's coming from someone who has the privilege of not actually having to make them, but also keep in mind that you don't have to be a 5-star chef to enjoy good food. You just have to not be from France. Fuck off, France. And naturally, with this also comes a special searing hatred for blatant attempts by developers to wrongfully claim ownership and profit off of original ideas and concepts they have no right to. And obviously I know everything comes from somewhere. If something exists, it's either because of a direct inspiration or need. But when that inspiration is easy money, it's very common for extremely convenient corners to be cut that require very little effort in adapting and making something unique, and which allow, or at least allow, developers to attempt to receive credit for creating something they largely aren't responsible for. What separates spiritual successors and fan games like Dusk or Ballistic NG, for example, is that their ideas are lifted with a level of respect that allows them to exist alongside as a tribute instead of a replacement, while the developers wouldn't even entertain for a second that they were in any way the source of them. Like me with this artist. Where it gets difficult though is with the fact that games are made by huge teams of individual people that in some cases are responsible for ideas which they take to work on other games, but legally speaking, work by contracted employees is owned by the company. God, if I was you, I would not be watching this shit. Sure, it's not always malicious, and sometimes they might not even know, or at least claim not to, but when credit is wrongly given for a mechanic or concept of questionable origin, the company responsible is not gonna do fuck all, because why would they? They want money and they'll take all the paying fans they can get. Except that doesn't fly with me. Not in my America, I'm talking Death Squad public execution tier offense. But since I've never been allowed any level of authority, for better or for worse, I thought I'd highlight some examples of misplaced credit here through what I do best. Interpretive dance. I'll get the video out the way first. Although I am very aware that I have talked about Minecraft on this channel way too much already, that being once, it's one of the most recent and probably well-known examples of an idea and concept that after having been done, damn, just by a huge unfortunate coincidence, hundreds of other games were also in development that had that exact same concept. And now they have to come out in the shadow of Minecraft and cash in on the immense success. That sucks. One of them being the Xbox 360 indie game Total Miner 4. And while it is just one of so many, it's guilty of standing out due to having been played and being popular enough to be the single best-selling indie game on the 360's indie storefront. Which makes it a lot worse. Bad things with no audience never hurt anyone. Yeah, that's right, I just compared Total Miner Forge to Adolf Hitler. Its final version being released not only years after Minecraft, but years after Minecraft was ported to the 360, and even years after that due to it being ported to Steam, finally. What did we play to cope with that hell? It did actually attempt to add to Minecraft in some way, believe it or not, and eventually, despite launching with none of the additions on either Xbox or PC, although from day one we did get the unique block type, the raster, I am yet to find out what the fuck that is all about. It was updated with aspects that Minecraft became famous for, but built into the game and coming with the game, like scripting and modding tools, skins and texture packs. One of them even being moderately usable. The modding stuff though being pretty impressive, if only for the fact the developer wasn't completely opposed to it, although I'm sure being $9.99 had a lot to do with that. Because hey, when you've already sold your integrity, order up. From what I can tell here, from a safe distance, people have used it to make everything from entire game modes to boss fights and even working guns. Sure, it's no Pokemon Red entirely remade using in-game assets, but its success serves to prove definitively once and for all that morally questionable business practices do in fact pay. An even more well-known and this time accepted example worth talking about as much as it stings and burns me deep down to accept is everyone's favourite PS1 era franchise turned racer, Mega Man and Bomberman, Looney Tunes, Smurfs, Nickelodeon, South Park, Batman, Toy Story, The Muppets, James Bond, Lego, Disney, Cubix, Final Fantasy, Konami, Kamen Rider, and that's just the PS1. Woody Woodpecker, Crash Bandicoot. Despite Crash Team Racing being undeniably the single best kart racer in existence even to this day, that doesn't change the fact that it existing is owed entirely to a game it had no right to. There's just no way around that. You can try though, I did. Although my bias does kinda make me want to pass the blame onto the countless other companies that jumped on that shit with no hesitation, some even coming out a couple of months before, but where they weren't just about unique enough or even genuinely good adding to and really adapting the concept, they felt like they had a right to the racing aspect of Mario Kart at least. What with Final Fantasy having an in-universe reason and Konami being morally bankrupt fuckheads anyway. My point being, a game being unoriginal doesn't make it bad or mean that we should ignore it completely, but a game's originality has always been as big a part as its graphics, music, story, voice acting, gameplay, and in the same way a game can be really good but look fucking horrible, it can also be really good but stolen, and I feel like I'm the only one who gives a shit because of how accepted it is nowadays, although I also hold 100% completion on Wild Animal Racing, so there is a good chance that that is just not normal. Also, my second point being Nintendo is a perfect divine company sent from God that always makes the best games and can never do any wrong. Which is also why it was such a slap in the face for Crash Nitro Kart to so blatantly go forward in time to steal Mario Kart 8's anti-gravity gimmick exactly. Disgusting. In the same way though, but in reverse, finding older really obscure games with major mechanics later more popular games became famous for is just another way I love to spend my free time. Second to Wild Animal Racing. Not so much to take away from the later game, but to praise the one that didn't get the attention it should have, but also to take away from the later game. Sonic, for example, back at it again, stealing ideas. By the way, this is me very blatantly passing the blame from a franchise I like onto one I don't. In Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, the game known to everyone as the kart racer with the transforming gimmick, that tends to happen when it's in the fucking title, can also be seen in the 2001 PlayStation game Hot Wheels Extreme Racing. Now I know what you're thinking straight away. Who the fuck ever played Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed? Regardless though, playing this game now and seeing how identically it was done down to the boost rings barrel roll maneuver and the fact that they choose not to just fly over every single obstacle, why? It makes me wonder whether the same game would have been made without using Hot Wheels as a template and instead just starting with the idea of a kart racing game with transforming vehicles. I mean, that is absolutely not the case here, but still. The game that started this for me was the PS2 game Pirates: The Legend of Black Cat. She's not black. In short, because I'm sure you'd love to hear me talk about Pirates: The Legend of Black Cat for hours, it's an open-world, pirate-themed adventure game with ship combat and extremely basic, bare-bones, basic-ass resource management. There's not many of them at all, in fact I can only think of one, and it's just my luck that it happens to be an Assassin's Creed game. Oh good, great, just bite down on something, I'll make it quick. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag is just another of hundreds of Assassin's Creed games that haven't changed since the first. The addition of the pirate theme and ship combat was on top of what was already there, and with it, it's impossible to play this and not constantly think about how similar the two are, just without the animus, so basically it's infinitely better. So it's a good point to mention that it's entirely likely that with these examples and other games, when there's only one way to execute an idea, two games are bound to end up being insanely similar, if not identical. That explanation, however, only accounts for and assumes the developers are innocent, and believe me, more often than not, they probably are, and I'm looking way too deeply into this. The most famous examples of where that is not the case, however, and where they deserve nothing less than an angry video by me, yeah, watch out, are two of the most popular games of all time. Mobile games, which I wouldn't count if I was smart enough, but just the platform itself is everyone's own little personal hotbed of thin, lazy imitations of things we like in the form of games we don't. The only place entire companies can be set up and thrive solely by constantly producing a stream of cheap knockoffs, which is why I have to mention Gameloft. The company. Just the entire thing. Their existence and everything they've done during. Games like Modern Combat, Nova, and Gangster Vegas Mafia game. all prove the company is competent enough that they could have made something worthwhile if even the tiniest bit of creativity, integrity, and effort was in any way part of the development process. Something to think about though is whether how young the industry is relative to how many insane innovations it's made in a short period of time has made us, and by us I mean me, demand more from it when the room for new, unique ideas would naturally shrink and run out as more and more of them are made. I'm pretty sure that's the same argument people use to say that modern games aren't as good as older games, but that's a separate issue that's going to deprive me of an equal number of hours sleep. But that still leaves me trying desperately to figure out why older industries like film or music have stuck to tight conventions since their inception, yet I've only ever been into like 2 genres each my whole life. Yet I find it impossible not to get burned to death playing a string of AAA games despite me picking at random from that year's biggest releases, although I am still implying this is only me, by the way. So is it just unfair to compare games to movies and music because there's only a limited number of really restrictive game engines? Is there a problem with modern games all graying together and becoming the exact same thing because there is no new ground left to cover? Is there actually a genuine problem of ideas, concepts, and mechanics being so regularly stolen because they've proven to work and sell? Or maybe it's just because games require more from me than just sitting down and shutting up. Wherein does that fucking problem lie? Sure, some do credit each other, which eases the awkwardness a little, not that crediting makes it any better though, I'd still rather something new, my favourite example of which comes from the memorable, the instant classic, the significant contribution to the art form, scoring high 9s and becoming Xbox Live's highest rated title of 2010, the masterpiece that is Call of Duty Black Ops, in a pre-release interview covering new multiplayer game modes.
Gun game is the third wager match game mode. The idea for the gun game came straight from the community.
The community, right? I noticed how you didn't say whose community, because it's fucking not yours. Game modes including Arms Race from Counter-Strike Source. Sorry, I mean gun game. Like I said though, the less awkwardness I'm sold, the better. Especially when I'm about to even it out with some interpretive dance. No.